and welcome to the first part of our cemetery tour and the final stage of our Tully Centenary celebrations. My name is Leonie Barra, and it gives me great pleasure to be a part of this cemetery tour. This is the story of my father. Ernest James Langmead, Jim, the second of 13 children born the 22nd of July 1910 in Yinnar, Victoria, to a farming family. Was destined to become a champion speedway rider, boilermaker, engineer, gunsmith, an inventor, opal miner, thrill seeker, showman, a true Aussie scoundrel, and above all, a darn good bloke. Jim left school with honours at 13 years of age after learning all that they had to teach. By 17, he was running his own quarry business, where unfortunately his father was killed right in front of him by a large falling boulder. Jim was devastated. Soon after, he left for America, seeking fame and fortune and an excuse to leave his pain behind. Whilst working in New York at the Indian Motorcycle Factory, Jim invented the first ever globe of death, a large steel mesh ball where Jim and the factory owner's son would hurtle around inside, riding a two-stroke belt-driven Indian bike they built themselves. During this time in America, Jim became involved with Barnum and Bailey Circus and travelled the country with them, riding their act, the Wheel of Death, a large timber silo structure where the public stood on a platform at the top looking down whilst motorbikes rode around inside. It was while performing near Niagara Falls that the front tyre of Jim's bike blew out and he was propelled over the top and into a crowd 20 feet below. Fortunately, no one was killed, but Jim at the age of 23 would spend the next 8 months in hospital with an assortment of broken bones, including 6 in one leg. A further 5 months of recuperating on crutches and Jim became homesick and returned with another showman and his family back to Australia. In Sydney, with the help of his mate and another good friend, Reg Ansett, Jim built his own timber wall, and I might add, with a safety wire on top. And for the first time in Australia, at the Royal Sydney Show, Australians were introduced to Barcola's Great Wall of Death. Travelling with an entourage of daredevil riders, and there was never a shortage of willing young men, Jim went up and down the east coast of Australia and as far west as Perth, where he met his first wife, Una, the daughter of a Kalgoorlie publican. Living in Kalgoorlie for a while and being the entrepreneur he had become, Jim tried his hand at gold mining, discovering it was a lot of effort for very little gain. And it wasn't long before he was fronting up at the Kalgoorlie courts for an alleged, competence trick of fraudulity, for selling a bar of yellow metal purported to be unmanufactured gold for the princely sum of £50. Not long after this incident, Jim moved back to Melbourne with Una, who by now had learnt to ride in the Wall of Death as well. Leading up to and during the war years, life was hard. Money was very short, and so in between shows, Jim would go back to mechanicking, also driving taxis, and rebuilding his American invention, the Globe of Death, to pair up with his wall, so as to thrill the public even more. Fell from the top of the Wall of Death, and she never regained consciousness, cradled in her husband's arms below. One wonders just how much tragedy can one man handle. With 3 teenagers to keep, the show went on. This time though, there was competition. Jim had never patented his globe, and a rival showman snuck into the tent one day with a slide rule to take measurements and build his own. Jim's team, with young Jimmy riding as well, had to find new and ingenious ideas to keep both the wall and the globe exciting, even putting a lion on the floor of the wall while a bike rode above. Compliments of Bullen Circus. Barcola's Wall and Globe of Death were very popular, and by 1958, father and son were tantalising the crowds with their daredevil performances. With 2 bikes in the globe, one going over while the other went around the middle, even adding a small specially made car inside. Jim by now had remarried and had 2 more daughters and another son on the way. And young Jimmy was newly married that year. But just before the birth of his new son, Jim became an inmate at the infamous Pentridge Jail in Melbourne. Married an Ingham boy in 1971, and they moved to his family business here in Tully in 1976. Jim, after having lived in Townsville, Charters Towers and Mount Isa, came to Tully to live with his daughter's family in the early 80s. Passing away 12 years later, and is buried here beside his firstborn and eldest daughter, who died 12 months before him. And if I may, let me share this short poem written at the Tully Nursing Home, Sunday the 26th of March 1995 at 11 p.m, the night before he died. This man, who's all of 84, lays peacefully in his bed. He no longer feels the pain of age, he just has his memories instead. And there's not a soul in this great big world who can see what he can see. We can only guess what's on his mind and what his memories would be. I guess, as he drifts in a twilight world, his memories will wander and roam. Maybe he's a young boy in a field, bringing the dairy cows home. Or maybe he sees a growing man with ambitions and dreams to fill, his life just flashing through his mind as he lays there very still. And as I watch his rising chest, counting the breaths he takes, I can't help but wonder at my loss and the difference his passing will make. No longer there for my questions or to give comfort when I'm in pain, this lifelong friendship will be severed until when my life will be over, and then we shall meet again. Goodbye, Dad. Thank you.